All right, everybody. So, Hurdie, Burk, and Jordan, but we're both hosts, Mansfield Buzz. We're testing today, literally. Jordan, hi.
Hello, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so the fun part about this is, well, we're doing something that a lot of people been trying to do for a long time, Jordan, and that is, taking advantage of today's technology. Now, I'm just going to admit, we got some great people in Mansfield. Steve over at Mansfield Podcast.com, OS63 studio that's next door to where we have our network group meeting. There's a lot of people that understand the technology. Steve's got the radio background, does a lot of recording. So, I mean, our niche, and you can jump in anytime, is simply to give that small business a voice and give them some information that they can push out, answer questions about their business, and get out in front of them on YouTube. By the way, we are live on the YouTube Mansfield Buzz channel today. We have 5 subscribers. Next week, we'll put links up. But if you happen to be listening live or watching on the Mansfield group, please feel free to go over and subscribe. Please. It's a brand new channel, so we know it's going to grow. So Jordan.
Yes, please go click subscribe. All that helps. Algorithms, they like people hitting buttons, so please go just hit it.
I think you can comment on it on Facebook. I'm not streaming on Facebook, but you could probably comment it on YouTube. We can answer questions if you like. But the purpose, again, is Jordan and myself are both hosts. He has admin rights. We're using a third-party stream service that we literally can stream live to 3 destinations. We choose YouTube. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're waiting to see what the verdict is with Facebook because we just heard, and it hasn't been crystal clear, that they're going to be eliminating some of their API or third-party apps, right, to Facebook, and we're not sure if we'll be able to stream to that destination because we don't know if this app's included in that, correct?
Are you telling me Facebook is changing something?
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't believe you. They never do that.
No, they never do that. And this is, I would consider this to be a pretty big change. So, because that eliminates people that have set up specific software programs to do certain things on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. So we haven't chosen that destination as the bottom line yet. We will, if they do allow it, then we will set up a group page and we'll do a simultaneous stream to there too from our stream service. So, Jordan, purpose, throw some thoughts at, you work in that social media management on all the aspects of social media. My niche is on the Google side. But tell us the purpose and how this can tie in for that small business that we want to set up interviews with here.
Definitely. And really the purpose behind this, right? Like there's lots of different places that give you radio capabilities, recording capabilities. Like what we're doing different here is what we're creating is content that is all about you. It's an avenue for you to tell your story, for you to be able to talk about your business, what makes it special, what makes you different. And I don't know if you've gone through the exercise. I know I have, right? But when somebody tells you how to differentiate yourself, what makes you different, you have to think about it. It's a difficult question to answer, to just sit down and just write it. However, in a conversation, when you're just talking to somebody in a natural conversation about what you do, why you do it, it comes out naturally. You don't really have to think about it. It's just something that just flows. So we just create the flow for you to come in and be able to tell us about your experience, about your life, what's been your successes, challenges. And in that conversation, the reason that you are special is going to shine right through. And we're going to record it. We're going to package it. And then we're going to give it right back to you with a nice summary of what makes you awesome. So you can then put it on your own social media channels and then tell everybody else your story, what makes you unique. And then you can rearrange that in any way possible, right? That's the beauty of social. You can post it. You can remix it. You can turn it into video. You can turn it into post. You can turn it into reel. Like there is so much usage. So we're really playing into that diversity of media and then just tying it in all to just a casual conversation.
and Jordan to give them to go a little bit more on the technical side so that the small business understand how easy this will be for them. The process is going to work like this. We literally are, Jordan sitting in his house, I'm sitting at my house. We're connected through a stream server that's third party. All I have to do for our small business when they decide to sign up with us and come on for their 10 questions that we ask them that, by the way, they produce for us. We're not the producers. We just ask the questions they want their audience to know. We invite them to their email to join us at 2:00 every Thursday or 1:30 to prep for the show, go through the questions before we go live. And we simply invite them by Gmail. They click a link, and guess what? Voila, they're sitting here on just like we are today. And they don't have to leave the house. They don't have to come to a studio. And we get to capture that for them on video. And also, the server we're using goes ahead and makes an audio copy. So Jordan can create snippets of that along with the video. We might eventually, and Jordan and I are talking into this, we might take the audio version and literally go over to Spotify, actually add it up on Spotify, and then we'll be in the Apple directory, Google directory, SoundCloud, Twitch, all those places that accept the podcast through RSS feed, which, by the way, you don't need to know what RSS means, but it's just a simple way. It's a simple syndication of a feed where it gets put in directories. It can be played from different platforms. That's all you need to know. So,
which means you're going to become a podcast.
Yeah. So if we decide to go that route, and it very well may be that the snippets we create from the show, right, Jordan, and put out there are good enough, because we're going to be on YouTube with the archive. We're going to be able to put these snippets in audio somewhere else, right? I just think it'd be really cool if we could give these interviewees, the people that we're talking to, businesses, the opportunity to have an audio version of it too, so that they could. And where are you going to put that? Well, we'd like to put it on a podcast platform. And Spotify right now is huge because, number one, they don't charge an arm and a leg for you to host there, and they've got a big audience, huge audience. So that's good. So, Jordan, how are we going to interview these? Let's talk a little bit about when a small business comes on. Doesn't matter what it is. There are a couple things we need to be careful with, and I'm just going to be upfront and say it. Health is difficult, and the problem with health for a long time has been is that there's certain things acceptable to social platforms you can say and not say, and they're really picky about people saying, well, this product healed me from this or healed me from that. Health tips are great, and we love to have the health professionals on, but if you're supporting some sort of supplement, something like that, you got to be careful what you say. It's that simple. Financial, people that work in the financial and insurance have to be very careful when they come on, because they might be some of the larger companies, like I'm not going to name them, but you know who they are. A lot of times they don't like their agents and stuff coming on and doing an interview because they have compliance rules, and sometimes they can get in trouble. So we have to clear that all out before we invite them on. So that's just a couple things to be aware of. But outside of that, we're ready. Bring them on, right?
Yeah. And it's always the art of being vague, right? Like you can't make an absolute promise, but and especially if you're in the industries, the kind of language you need to use to be mindful of those things.
Yeah, and I like your word, the art of, because that's really it. The articulation or the art of how being vague but being good with your information is good. And I will tell people when we interview you on here, the quicker you can answer a question and be really simple with that answer, the better it's going to be, because they don't have to be long, strung out answers to questions that you want us to ask, because a lot of that can be made up once they visit your website or visit your social platform. So it's really kind of simple questions to get to know you, sort of thing. And we may have some fun too. We may ask you your favorite color, your favorite band, what was your last concert you went to in high school, all that kind of stuff. What's your favorite movie? We may just throw some trick questions at you. But let's talk about Jordan. You might be good with this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're thinking in the first month for how we're going to bring guests on, right? And then sponsorships.
Yeah. So in the first month, and obviously we're starting, so we want to have an introductory structure to this. So we're offering a $50 package. So you pay $50 and you come in, and we do all the work for you. All you have to do is supply 10 questions that you want us to ask you on air. So that way you can come in prepared. We're not going to, blindside you with anything. And then we can pull the story out from those questions and our conversations to be able to get to the saucy part of the story, so to speak. Then from that, we're going to turn our conversations into social content. So that way you can have very socially minded content that you can repost and put on your channels to show the value of your business in a very relatable form. And as far as a sponsor, we're looking for a sponsorship that we can have to help us support the show. And they're going to be able to be, obviously they're going to be present during we're going to give them a shout out at the beginning. We're going to talk to them during the show. And actually, Hurdie, I think you actually have some ideas on how to even incorporating not on the live show, but also on the recorded show.
Yeah. So on the live show, of course, the sponsor would get a shout out, literally a shout out at the front end of the show, and then in the back end and close out. But my idea is that we maybe send them over to Steve to get a real good, crisp 1 minute recording right from him at Mansfield podcast, because we want a clear recording. And then what we do when I go back and edit the audio part, and drag it through the timeline, and I'm talking technical, but literally insert that MP3 audio in. And during the show sometime I'll say, we're going to hear from our sponsor. We'll be right back. And then I say, we're back. And that's my insert point that's the little trick game of broadcasting, is I can go back, and that's my point for inserting the ad, maybe in the middle of the show or after the fifth question, right? Just as a break for the guest to kind of catch their breath, give them a minute to think into the next 5 questions. So yeah, so if you're interested in being a sponsor, we'll take you right now, and we'll be happy to sit down and talk to you about what we're thinking long term. We are going to broadcast weekly. Just Jordan, we hadn't mentioned that, but we're going to be on every Thursday like clockwork at 2:00. It is booked. So if something happens to me, or I have to go out of town, or Jordan has something come up, one of us will be here. He's an admin on this stream server also. So one of us will be on, but we're going to be on every week except holiday weekends. So if you're a sponsor, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, literally 4 inserts and 8, right? Shout outs over a month. Not bad.
Yeah. And
especially in today's world where people like to listen to stuff on podcast platforms and YouTube. And so, it won't ever go away unless we edit it out for some reason. So it's always going to be there. So even after the shows are over and you paid for your sponsorship, and maybe you decide to leave and somebody else comes on, you still get the benefit of those older archive shows spitting out your name. So yes, I think that's worth $1 billion. No, I'm kidding. $1 billion.
And who knows? Maybe we even work you into the conversation.
I think what I used to do in the past with the Austin Biz Buzz and some of the other podcasts was I used to always bring our sponsor on. Our sponsor needs to have a full, time to talk and be on and introduce them to the audience. And people like to put faces with ownership, especially on video. I've always said that what makes video great is the people that you're doing business with. You get to meet, see them, and there's some authenticity and some trustworthiness that's automatically built when people can see who they're doing business with. They get a feel for them. So really cool thing.
Absolutely. Right? It's the same thing I talk about people too with social channels. It's exactly that. The power of your face. It is the one thing that sets you apart that nobody else has. So it's your best weapon at setting yourself apart.
Absolutely. And I would say that we're going to have fun. A lot of stuff that's done on podcasts, at least what I listen to in the personal growth arena and do some stuff with my John Maxwell certified coach on our other podcast, it's pretty serious stuff. You know, we want businesses to be on here, have some fun, get, lighten up a little bit, tell us a funny story, tell something really embarrassing that happened in your business, if you're willing to talk about it. Tell us something funny, or maybe something you did when you first started and you just didn't get it, or something. I mean, there's story. The cool thing about this is, and Jordan, you're so right, there's places in this where we'll find some very, very, very cool snippet stories, right, that we can pull out of this. And you just never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yes. And those stories, the mistakes, it doesn't all have to be glory. Like we humanize so much over each other's mistakes and the things that went wrong, right? Like you think we're all like experts in our field, but really experts are not experts. Like we all make mistakes and they're hilarious.
Yeah. And I would also say that being live, you get to see us bumble a little bit. You get to see us if this isn't edited out if but words. I mean, we literally could get tongue tied a couple times, or we might just completely forget a thought, or we may, it goes along with it. So you get to have some fun with us and make fun of us if something like that happens. But we don't care. we can handle it.
Just if you're taking the call with your AirPods and you go to the bathroom, please leave the AirPods at your desk.
Oh, no kidding. Are you saying we forget to do certain things? Yes, we do. We do.
You go to the bathroom with a hot mic and it's like, we'll be back briefly.
Welcome to our world, right? So to kind of recap, Jordan, we're going to start next week. Or the week after, but we've got lined up some businesses already, correct? I mean, you've been working hard about getting some guests lined up, and I have too. I was waiting for us to get our heads together, see who's coming up. And so we're starting next week.
Yes. And we have a Calendly link set up so you can go in and sign up and take your spot. There's a place in there for you to submit your 10 questions so we can get you ready for it. And all of you know us and we're very accessible. So any questions or any concerns or even coaching that you need prior to that, like feel free. It's easy. It's just having a conversation. It's like having a one-on-one, except it's over the internet versus at Flying Squirrel.
Yeah, it's conversation, and it is like a one-to-one, and the cool thing is it's going to become a 1 to 100 or 1,000 because that conversation is going to be out there in front of other people, and we're going to make sure we do the job of getting it out there. We both know how to market, we both know where to put content, and we both know what to do with content. So you've got two good guys that really know between us what needs to be done and what part of the content can be pulled out and usable for you to get attention to your business. So that to me is really cool.
Yes. And one thing I can say is if you're an extrovert, you're going to be talking to thousands of people. You're an introvert, you're going to be only talking to one person at a time, 1,000 times.
That's good. You just read that in a book, didn't you? You just pulled that out of the hat. That's good. I like it. So
out of somewhere.
Yeah. So anything that we missed to kind of introduce what we're doing? Is there anything else we need to elaborate on except sponsors? We're looking for businesses to jump on with us. We'll be experimenting as we go. I need to tell you that. Nothing's ever perfect, and we're going to look for avenues to push this content out. And like I said, that could possibly end up being on a podcast platform, other social, like Facebook, putting snippets up and drawing it to your business and getting some ideas from you, the business yourself. So
Instagram is another alleyway. I know Instagram Live is trying to push their live platform. LinkedIn is also another one that is really trying to capitalize on live streaming.
Now, I do have access to LinkedIn.
Yes, I do too. Actually, I forgot. I am a LinkedIn creator. So.
Right. So I was going to say, if we want to choose that as one of our destinations to stream next week and have it on YouTube and LinkedIn, we can do that. So it's up to, we'll talk about it, but we can do that automatically. So we're in pretty good shape on that. If we want to put that up on our live feed, but it has to be in one of our channels because you have to go through the application process, to get approved for that, right? And it has to be a third-party stream, which we are, so we're good on that.
We'll set up on that. I would also say too, as far as sponsorships, if you have a kind of business that can be brought up during conversation. I was kidding earlier, but actually that's not a bad idea. If you have a like product or service based type of a business that you like to sponsor with, like it is very easy to bring it up in conversation and talk about it whenever it's appropriate. And it could just lead to certain conversations. So that could be another, potentially useful thing for a sponsor. Word of mouth is a very powerful way to promote your business. And I mean, that's what we're doing.
And I would go on to say from, background in some of this podcasting is we can ask a sponsor what they feel comfortable, what they kind of want in the sponsorship. We can customize that sponsorship within reason, right? We're not going to put it on TV and, we're not going to have it on radio, but if there's a list of things where you think it's important snippets get to and pieces of this get to, and of course you'll have your own copy. We'd sure like to hear your thoughts on sponsorship. Now, let's just say this. Don't ask me. I'm just going to say it. Don't ask me about views because this is a brand new channel. If you come on as a sponsor with us, you're jumping in the fire just like we are. Okay. I mean, you're along for the bumpy ride on the front end too, because I can't tell you how many views till we start getting the show ingrained, get the buzz going literally about it, and we start getting some traction. So that's why the sponsorship will be customized, and we haven't told you a price because we don't really know what that needs to be yet. We want to grow with the sponsor, so be aware that we're not really sure yet what to do, and that's why we want to sit down and have a hash out meeting about it. But we're at the beginning stages. We got 5 subscribers on this channel. And we're going to have to push out the links and get the content up and start asking people to go over and click the subscribe button and the notification bell to let them know when we're on live. So this is a true ground floor up opportunity to be in on the ground floor of it. But don't ask me what the views are.
You're investing in
how many views you have? 2.
2 views.
But see, that's not true, because if we include the sponsor in some of the snippets after the show, right? It's what I call it when you're going in and you can pull out their shout out and add it to the front end or the middle of the snippet, right? And I would say that our client that's on with us should also understand that we have to support the sponsor. So we even though we give them an audio clip or a video clip, we have to include the sponsor information in that. It's just part of the real world. So be aware of that. Okay.
And it's collaboration, and I just thought about it too. I mean, there happens to be a very blank space at the bottom of my screen, and I happen to know a very good printer that does t-shirts, and she can just about ink anything, right? So we can go as far as if what is it? If we can print it, we can ink it or something. Can ink it.
Yeah. Little Bit Apparel. I'm pretty sure they'll be on the show talking to us. I'm almost really sure of that. By the way,
I'm thinking we go part of the sponsorship. We get the sponsor. Part of the sponsorship is T-shirts with a sponsor logo. We'll wear it during the show.
Yep. Now, there is one other issue we need to tell you about, and that is we're on YouTube right now, and you're not seeing closed caption. And the way this third-party server's up, you're kind of stuck with how our blocks and banners show up at the bottom of this page. So we have to be really careful about putting a lot of information at the bottom, because once the archive's up, then you see the closed caption scrolling across the showing up on the bottom of the screen, and we don't want those things to overlap. So Jordan will think into that a little bit, and that's what I'm talking about, the experimental phase of this. There are certain things we control, there's certain things we can't, and I didn't create how these banners show up on this stream server, so we're not where I can move them around. Okay.
Yeah. But it's all about I'm all about product placement, right? Like I work in advertising, right? So we can get really clever, like just hold up your notebook, like sponsored by.
Right. Well, I'm saying that it's not like sponsorships in the old world where high bid bought spots, right, on traditional services. I'm talking about radio, talking about TV, where you paid for primetime ad space, you paid for lower ad space depending on time of day, and then y'all ever wondered why all those infomercials were on from 2:00 in the morning till 5:00 in the morning on your TV? It was cheap.
Yep.
And they had enough of people staying up all night to watch them. But the bottom line is where the internet's different is you have the capability of controlling your message and tracking it. Jordan likes that. Jordan likes that.
Have it hosted and playable.
And you hold up a notebook, it says Adobe on it, and there you go. He just told you what he uses.
Yeah, no, it's like,
and
what kind of software do you use? I don't know.
And by the way, there are real TV shows and internet podcast shows that are video that they do have placement products inside the video that are subtle. They don't talk about them; they just show them.
Oh my God! Yes, absolutely. It's brilliant.
So just realize we have some avenues.
Absolutely, we'll be creative.
We could even get a crayon and draw the sponsor across the front of your T-shirt today.
Yep, we'll do it live.
Hi, I'm a chalkboard today.
I like that. We should do that at least one day.
And I'm wearing this shirt.
It's like, what's your preferred athletic apparel?
Oh, and look, there's the watch. So my point is, we have a lot of ways of helping you out, and this is how this is going to help the business. What I don't think a small business sometimes understands is they think they're getting on this one show, and they think that when that's over, yes, it's out there. They think it's done. Wrong. We're going to make things get pushed out all over the place, and we've repeated over and over because we want you to understand this message is not going to go away once your show's over.
Yeah.
You're going to have an ongoing deal. And I will say, and this just reminds me of one more thing, Jordan, and then I guess I'll be quiet, but this is what we're here for. We're trying to explain how this is all going to work. And that is, when you give us the questions, try to make them timeless, meaning don't give us stuff like event dates coming up next week, or I've got this big deal coming up in July, because remember, this is archived. So when it is over, that information should be just as good a year from now as when you gave us the interview today. Now, if it's some important event coming up and you just want the show for that one event, that's fine. But just understand that when that event's over, basically that information on that podcast is not going to go much further down the road at all. Or you can use snippets from it for your next year's event, something like that. But
And that's
Try to
one
keep.
thing that I'm so glad you're bringing up, because it is very different in YouTube that is on the rest of the social media channels. In YouTube, irrelevant video will come up. And I don't know if you know, I mean, I know you know this, Hurdie, but for audience, like, I don't know if you noticed when you look up on YouTube, like an instructions on how to do something, some of the videos that you will get, you can tell they're old. You can tell that video's been there for 7, 8, 9 years. And it's still very relevant. It's still coming to the top. That viewership, that engagement is still there. And that thing has been there like years and years and is still relevant, right? So
Right.
YouTube knows what is helpful, what is relevant, and it will keep it up at the top regardless of how old it gets. And that is fundamentally different from the rest of the other social
Yes.
media channels that are all about immediacy. What's new? What's new? What's new?
Yeah, their feed
YouTube is
and
what's
their
relevant.
feed disappear content quickly too. So yeah, absolutely. And I would even go on to say that the funny thing, Jordan, is when somebody comes to me for YouTube consulting, they'll say, "Hey, I want my channel to get bigger." And I go, "Well, you do know YouTube shows videos, not channels, right? You do know it's about the video.
Yeah.
The channels where you have the content, and they have channels you can log into, but what we're trying to do is make the videos work, not the channel.
Yeah.
Channel take care of itself.
Yeah. If the videos work, the channel's handled.
Yeah. So I think people, but timeless content. I'm telling you, there's people that I can just name: service companies, plumbing companies, HVAC companies, service companies, roofing companies, any of those type of companies. You should be able to give us 10 timeless questions that are just as good if hail hits a roof next year as it does this year, right? It should be the same message. And that's the kind of things you want out there, is that it just keeps working. And you're right, Jordan, I've seen YouTube videos on some searches I've done that are 12 years old.
Yeah.
And they're relevant.
Yeah.
They may have been shot on an SD camera with a tape deck in it, but if it shows how to take the car battery out and it's efficient and it's effective, it works really well.
Yeah, and it comes up.
So we hope we're getting everybody fired up.
I think so. We should probably use a little bit of this time to actually guide potential interviewees on how to what makes a good question, right?
Oh, okay.
Because they know their business best, but they might not know what good questions are or how to frame them, how to come up with them. So I can start with one because thinking about YouTube and just the nature of the content that lasts so long in there, some of the content in there that tends to be there for a long time is because it's very useful, right? So questions that provide valuable answers to your audience are always great things to talk about.
Yep.
So if you're solving a problem, you're demystifying something, you're empowering somebody, something that gives your audience something tangible or intangible, but definitely something that they can feel is valuable, that is a good question.
Yeah. And I would say, based on mobile searches on YouTube about people searching for quick answers to their questions, right? They're doing their research, they're looking for a product or service, how to fix that. The number one genre on YouTube is how to. You probably know that. Mm-hmm. If you can give people that useful content that Jordan talks about, if you can give people answers to, say, your top 10 questions you get asked over and over, you're pretty much nailing your target audience, because if you're getting the same questions asked over and over, then you pretty much know that's the beginning stages of understanding your target market. And Jordan and I are big believers in, if you don't have a strategy, we're not going to work with you, okay? Because throwing stuff against the wall is not the way that you market. My old saying was, those things that used to stand in front of buildings and wave, those balloon things? I go, this is not marketing.
Yep, that is making noise. It's not marketing.
But if you can get people, if you can, and another thing, small business, and I know we're getting a little bit tutorial here, but this is fun part. If you can start asking your clients when you meet with them, get them to ask them, what are questions you would ask me if you were looking for me online? And take a journal with you and write those down, and then start thinking into that kind of content, because you want to know who that audience is and you want to have a strategy to approach them. So I agree with you. Useful information can never go wrong. Tips can never go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're helping your customers understand something, they're more apt to pick up the phone or email you and use your service. And I don't know what that stat is, and I'm not going to even throw it out there, but I know there's a certain amount of searches people do, and they usually choose one of the 4 people that they searched online eventually for the product or service. So
yeah,
big deal.
Another thing that would seem counterintuitive, but I even think you've experienced this. I've experienced this a lot, but I think you have to with some of your clients, Hurdie, is giving advice that would allow the person to take care of the problem without your service. What I mean by this is giving away the value. So, for example, for me, like in my own personal experience, I give a ton of value away as far as how to do social media strategy. You know, I will tell you the formula, I'll tell you the secrets, I'll tell you how it works, I will tell you everything. Like, there's no gatekeeping. Like, I will tell you how to do it and how to do it yourself.
Right.
And if you can do it, go for it, because I want you to succeed. If you're at a point where you like don't have the time to do it, or your time is better spent elsewhere, and then you need to outsource that so you can continue to increase your revenue, then hiring me makes sense. But that is a way that you create a trust with your audience, because you are giving them the truth. You're giving them options. They can take care of them themselves, or if it's out of their expertise, something they cannot do, or it's just not worth their time, then they will gladly pay you to do
it. And that is so awesome, because my website it sucks, just so everybody knows. Don't care, because I don't hardly need it. But the one thing I want people knowing there is that Jordan's right. I give away information probably more than I charge for, truth be known. But there's 3 words I never use in my marketing: secret, trick, and magic, because those are all things to hook people into paying money. I want people to know what they need to do to be successful in the niche I'm in, right? I want to teach them how to fish. In other words, I don't want to cast a line all day long and be there to babysit. I want those people to be able to catch their own fish, bait their hook, put their line in, and get involved with their business. I mean, who's the best person, Jordan, that knows their business? The business owner. Knows that business better than me and you. No matter how many notes we took, we could get pretty close to understanding what they're doing completely and what they need to do. But they're the ones that need to be involved with their business. I think education's important, and that's another reason we wanted to create this buzz. Was we want some of our businesses to be able to have a longer time to share how they can help their customers.
Absolutely.
There we go. Giving our stuff away today. It's all right. And I tell you, there's a book written by Adam Grant called Give and Take, and it's well worth it. And he goes through 3 different scenarios of the taker, the giver, the matcher. The giver finished first and third. The matchers wanted somebody to give them something in exchange for something they did for them, and the takers were always taking from the people, and the givers were always the people that were on top. It may not appear so, but they're the ones that end up gain the most trust with their clients, because they're not asking for matching. They're not taking and not giving. They're more willing to give in order to get, and they don't ask for it. They just automatically do it. So one of my coaches taught me that a long time ago. It was a valuable lesson for me in my early days of business, coming out of the same thing you did, corporate.
Yes. Oh, corporate life.
So anyhow, we've rambled on pretty good here.
Yeah, we have. I think we covered everything.
It's only 2:39. We've only been on like 35 minutes. So just so you know.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe we should talk a little bit about the host of the show, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, we've talked about Well, just talking about the 10 questions, right? So, what like one of the ones that I think is kind of an obvious introductory one for everybody, and I think it should be for us too, is like, what got you into this? And that'll be interesting because you and I are both consultants, right? So we work solo, we work directly with people, and we're both coming out of corporate life. So I'd be interested, like, what was your path like?
Well, I played sports, right, up through college. I was an athlete. I could have cared less about school when I was in school. I was probably the worst high school student you could ever meet. I tried to get C's and D's just so I could get out of class, skip class, go do stuff, go on baseball trips. I didn't care. Ended up going to college, did great. Got my study habits in order, and ended up working in manufacturing in Dallas in 1978, selling fine printing paper to big printers, and it was a very lucrative business at that time in manufacturing. Manufacturing was big in the 70s here. Ended up going to MCI after the bust of the telecom market, where they diversified and allowed people to sell long distance, and I found out I had a technical side that didn't exist. And I wonder why. My dad worked in the Apollo spacecraft guidance systems in Huntsville, Alabama.
Wow.
So I didn't know I had it, but I picked up my first computer in 1993. I worked as an entrepreneur for a computer company after I left that corporate world. And I built my first 286.
I don't know what a 286 is.
286 was one of the first IBM compatible computers to come out. The processing was a 286. It had 5.25 floppy disks. It had the hard drive was 10 small megabytes, and they were $900 a piece. And a 72 Sims chip was $650. One mega RAM. And that's how I learned Windows. Because Windows 95 came out, and we were and you're going to laugh, but we were putting together Lantastic and Novell networks in churches and connecting them with RG58. And my technical side came out, and so I just got it. I understood it. I understood software. I understood computers, and I didn't know where it came from. I told you I was stupid. I really was. I didn't care about school. I just got it. And to this day, I'm just intrigued. And I know it's a long story, but I'm just really intrigued with technology. I'm always researching. I'm always looking at what's coming down the pike, and I just get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean I have answers to every question, but I mean, I will. If I see something I don't understand, I'll go look it up and exhaust it. I will fall asleep at the computer just going down a dirt road, figuring out what I just read.
I believe it. I believe it.
And so for you, the same question then.
Yeah, but let me ask you something, because you told me this and I was so blown away by it. We talked about, potentially streaming this audio through Spotify, put it in what is called an RSS feed, so it can send it to, Spotify podcast,
sure.
Apple Podcast, all of those. So you can stream, so we can stream music that we all do now, music and audio over the internet. Right. Now that's a relatively new thing that came out. We didn't used to be able to do that. No. Before there was this whole like, I don't know if people remember Napster, where you could download the music from the internet and listen to it on your device.
Yep.
But this whole idea of streaming music over the internet, it's more of a modern thing. Except I happen to know somebody that did that a long time ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So when I was president of Deep Elm Association down in Dallas during the .com days, I moved in there in 98. We were setting up a company to learn how to stream video to the last mile using a 72-bit chip, which is very proprietary at the time, but there wasn't enough bandwidth. So getting it last mile was virtually impossible, but filming stuff and putting it up on the internet for, say, lawyers and attorneys and stuff still worked. You just couldn't share it down the road, right? Literally. Well, a friend of mine started a company called musicians.com, .net. Perry was the manager of that. And there was an old high school in the old downtown part of East Dallas. Yeah, East Dallas. I can even tell you the street. It was boarded up. But why are all these cars in the parking lot? Well, in the middle of that high school was a streaming. Let me go back. This is 2000. Audio. Real time. Big servers. And I actually had a show called Hurdie's Happenings. Perry ran the servers, understood the technology even better than I did at the time, and we were streaming audio out literally on the internet. And the way that we interviewed music was we brought in very popular bands in Dallas that were practicing in the old high school rooms, right? The abandoned high school. That's where they practiced. We'd bring them in the studio. We had 5 mics. We'd set them in front of us on stools. They'd bring their instruments, but everything had to be acoustical. So they had to play their famous song on acoustics.
That is amazing.
And so my tagline used to be, as I was streaming when streaming wasn't cool.
So to put this in perspective, this was what, in 2000, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until 8 years later, I just had to Google it, that Spotify launched.
Yeah,
So
but nobody was using Spotify.
It didn't exist. You were 8 years ahead of Spotify.
Limpsum was the big podcast host and still is. You pay a lot of money to be on them, but they have some of the similar stuff. But there was nothing. Listen, I was a big part of being on MySpace because it was the first social platform, right? And that's where we were doing live streaming shows from local bars in 2004.
That's awesome. That is.
But we didn't really have the means in the server space at the time to keep everything, because remember, there was no Google yet. Yahoo was still the big boys on the block until they paid Mark Cuban. Okay, I didn't say that. I love Mark. He was right down the street, literally. But they kind of, I don't know what they did. They changed management or something. Google was on the upswing. They were indexing websites and they were getting in the search, and they kind of figured it out quicker, and they just kind of took over slowly. And they started buying people with the funds they had, and YouTube was one of their big purchases, right? And Alphabet, a lot of people don't know Google's really name is Alphabet. And they have offshoots and umbrellas under that. But I just knew automatically when they bought YouTube, that's why I got involved with it. I got involved with YouTube right off the bat. Hardly any tools. It's hard to upload. You had tape cameras. You had to take the tape out, run it through a converter. It was millions of steps to get a tape out of a camera, edit, upload.
Yep.
And it looked terrible. You go back and look at some of those, they look like somebody turned the lens to blur.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
So you got me talking. Now it's your turn.
My turn. Yes. So how do I get into this? What's funny, because I was also a really bad student. Just didn't I don't know, just didn't click, I don't know how I graduated. And honestly, I didn't figure it out in college either. Like, I don't even know how I graduated college. Actually, I do, but I won't say. I won't publicly admit it, but I did graduate. But my play was to go into advertising. I studied design. My background is in design and art direction, and I wanted to go into advertising. But I wanted to be like, I've always liked to make things. So for me, it was being very much about being a maker. And that's what took me the advertising route. I first started doing advertising for, I don't know if you remember this, you were here at the time, but there used to be a minor league baseball team in Fort Worth called the Fort Worth Cats.
No.
And it was
God.
a like minor league subsidiary of the Dodgers.
Really?
So the Fort Worth
Wow.
Cats mascot is called the Dodger. And I think
Wow.
most famously, Babe Ruth played there once.
Wow.
They still have the bench. Like, it's like, he sat there. So I began my career doing advertising for them. And that's when I first started playing with social media. And this was back when Facebook, you still have to friend request businesses. So I remember the first thing of my day was to just turn on the computer and just go accept, just give other friend requests for the business. So I did that, and that's how I got into motion graphics, because they had a graphic. Like, I ran the graphic board at the on the stadium, so I would make the game graphics and apply the special effects. And I the screen was 192 pixels by 192 pixels, but it was gigantic, right? It's one of those like jumbotrons. It was literally a jumbotron. That was the brand. 192 pixels. Each pixel was a light bulb. When a pixel went out, you go over there and change the bulb.
That's crazy.
So that was the beginning of it. From then, I went on to work at a web design shop. And I worked that was in Denton, and I worked there for like a year and a half. And then I landed my first job at a big boy agency working for McDonald's. That was like my big break. And that was phenomenal. I mean, that I spent a good time there, just learning about advertising, working in the advertising space, learning to come up with creative concepts, and just how you take a business and distill it down to a creative idea, and how to pull out the most important part, and how to turn that into a story so you can run it. And in this case, it was broadcast, right? So how do you turn that into a 30-second spot? Because back then, TV was still a thing.
Absolutely.
So that I did that for a little while, and that was a lot of fun, especially because the budgets. I mean, when you're working with companies like McDonald's, our budget was $5.5 million, and it came in biannually, and we would create TV spots for the value menu, for the Mac Cafe, the Big Mac, the Mac Rib. That was really fun, because I still don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Nobody does, but they loved it.
But it was fun, because that was the one product that McDonald's let us get wacky with.
Yeah.
So we could do like all sorts of really crazy things. I remember at one point we talked about how the McRib was coming, and we just made this whole thing. And this was my first digital campaign, and we did all with animations. It was about the McRib is coming, and it was all a play on animal migrations. So instead of having buffalo migrating, we'd have McRibs just like running across the screen. Instead of like salmon coming in, we have McRibs just flopping out of the water and come back in. And it was phenomenal. It was so much fun. So from then I moved on to like advertising, like the life of advertising goes. And I don't know if people know this, but there's a saying in the advertising industry that you don't work in advertising until you've been fired at least once. And it's so true. You work on all these accounts, you make all this work, but the way this works is there's a big client that hires an agency. This agency hires a team, and this team is the one that creates the work for that client. But because of the nature of marketing, every time a CMO changes, typically that CMO goes and gets a new agency. The agency that was previously doing the work now doesn't have that account. So then the team that was working on that account can't be paid anymore. So they get fired. And that's why they call it the revolving door of advertising, because we've all worked on so many agencies, we'll know each other, because the account left. And if you're lucky enough that the account is going to another agency that is like in the same city, then you're basically getting a new job in that next agency. If it's going to another state, then, well, you're looking for another job. And then just so you hop around. Right. So we lost McDonald's. So I lost my job, and I landed another job working for an agency in Fort Worth doing ballpark buns. And that was a fun gig. That was I call that a major league client with a minor league budget.
That's pretty cool.
For such a famous brand, the Bimbo Bakery owned them. They had no money, so it was like getting as creative as you could to run like media, but like you didn't have, like, we didn't have money. So on that one, what we did is we created what we called a library of buns. And what we did is we photographed all the products in all different angles. So we could go in and like cut them out of the images. This was, but by this time we had After Effects was in full swing, so we could animate. So we would cut out these buns and then just put them in like the most outrageous situations. So like one of the things we did is like never miss bun day. Making a play on leg day, and it was an image of somebody doing squats, except instead of squatting, it was a bunch of hamburgers. Because we could do that, we could just photo manipulate things and create those weird animations. But again, the pandemic hit and clients went away, money went away, and everybody's like, well, sorry, no budget, see ya. So yet, got fired for a second time. It's like, whatever. I'm used to it by this point. So I ended up landing at another agency doing advertising for Old Navy.
Wow.
And now that was an eye-opening experience. Talk about large budgets. Like we were spending $5 million a day on media. Like when it comes to the shopping holidays, when you're talking about Black Friday, the holidays, around the Thanksgiving dates, like it was like around $5 million a day just promoting pay-per-click, social media ads, like just digital, all in digital. It was exclusively digital strategies, and they were making money. Like they were spending millions, but they were making billions.
Yeah.
So I got to see the machine work at such a large scale. It was like, okay, this is what going pro looks like. This is next level spending. So we have to be very smart about creating assets and just creative content that will fulfill all that, right? Like you're spending millions, like $400 million in media. You know how much like creative assets that is? Like how many posts, how many reels, how many billboards, how many banners, like how much content that is.
It's just gobs. I mean, I can't imagine.
Yes. So you have to get really good at strategizing how you create the content, because in this case, you're hitting so much volume, and it all has to be within strategy and needs to communicate the brand's values. So that was a great exercise for me, because it got me to get really good at really understanding what are the things that perform and how to craft creative content that tells a story and how to do it at scale. Are you going to be telling one story, 2 stories, 3 stories? You're going to be telling a certain story. We're going to break it into how many pieces, and are the pieces self-standing, or is it just like each individual story? So one long story that you see a piece at a time. That was really interesting. And I was very successful doing that. It's the first time I was able to play at that level of a game, and I did it really well. And so I ended up, our team generated, the biggest achievement we did was $154 million of incremental revenue. So that was an additional $154 million that was like just not accounted for. It was just so successful that it just made an extra $154 million. And we got 2.2 billion impressions on a particular campaign that generated all that money. It was called Bot Equality. And that's like 2.2 billion. That's wild. It's like, that's more than the population of the US. Like that means everybody saw this twice. Like
it's crazy.
It was incredible. Like that level of success, like such a home run, right? Like, we're at the office, like popping champagne, and like, we didn't even get as much of a pat on the back from the client. They're like, oh, good job. Great. On to the next thing. Like it was just that. And Old Navy started taking some very questionable approaches to their marketing. So, at the time is when all of those social movements were going on, and they started to really try to capitalize on those movements, but they were pushing their own agenda. I mean, like they were really trying to sell their product, and that didn't sit well with the Old Navy's audience. And so people started to just notice and actually use their voice. So in TikTok, they started using the hashtag "not buying it there" for anything that was related to Old Navy. So like, as like they went from being this great empire of quick, they call it quick retail, which is, like more affordable apparel in the retail industry. And they just, bombed down. They lost 20% of their stock. The CMO quit, the president quit, like they had layoffs. So then yet again, the budget goes away. So then the agency's like, sorry, no more money. Bye. And at that point, I'm like,
I'm done.
I can do it again. I can go back into another agency. But I'm just, again, going to be making money for another company that is I'm going to be making money for shareholders. And then whenever things go down, they're just going to kick me to the curb again. And there hasn't been a single person thread like that whole time that I could put my finger and be like, hey, I helped you. There was no you to it. There was no feeling of making a difference, like
Right.
150 million is a lot of money, but to Old Navy, it wasn't,
Yeah.
So that's when I just stopped to think about it. It's like, if I could do 1% of that, 1% of 150 million, that's $1.5 million.
Right.
If I could do that for a small business, a smaller medium business owner, if I can give you an additional $1.5 million, like, what would that do for your business?
Right.
What would that do for your life? Like, I would be making a marked difference.
Great story.
And at the very least, you would remember my name.
Yeah.
Whereas to these big companies, like, they don't know who I am. The current CEO of Old Navy has no clue who I am, nor did he or she ever did.
Right.
So I went on to more of the consultant route because it's a direct line. In my opinion, makes a much bigger difference.
Yeah. And even and I will tell you one thing. My next question to you, and I don't want to hold you over too long, is that I imagine all that agency work and working around those teams really helped develop and helped you see the creative side that you were capable of inside, right? Because you start getting around a bunch of people that are really creative, there's some cool stuff that you learn some skills out of that you would never thought you could do, right?
Oh yeah.
And you can apply those right back to these people you want to help and stamp your name on it. But not only that, you're really helping them and you're making a difference. And that is my biggest reward also, just truthfully, is you get to have your mark on these accounts, and it's not for wearing a crown or anything. It's just simply the fact that you have contributed, hopefully, to their success.
Yeah.
That's the motivation, by the way. A lot of people ask, what's your passion? Well, my I don't know how to answer that all the time because that's kind of one of those big giant questions. But if you ask me why I do it, it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is just this giving people the keys of freedom.
Yeah.
If you own your own business and you have a profitable business, then freedom. And that is a wonderful gift. And to be able to help somebody attain that is incredible.
We work in an arena with a lot of people at that low. My goal was small, medium business because it was an ignored business, and I wanted to bring my skills to that arena. And I will tell you, they are some of the most frustrated people in the world because they have to do their books. They have to do their marketing. They have to manage employees. They have to go home. They have to get up and do it again. And, if we can just be a little bit of help on the side and not break their budgets and help them, establish us in them, I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
So Julie Stander's enjoying our conversation.
Well, I'm glad to have you, Julie.
So let's just put her up right there. You're now, Julie, just to see how this works a little bit, your picture and your chat just showed up at the bottom of our screen.
And now she's probably regretting posting.
So if you want to hide, there you go. And she goes, wow, there you go. So we've been on now almost an hour and 3 minutes.
Wow.
But I think it's important, and I know it's long-winded for a lot of people, but the whole point of today was to get people comfortable with who we are, what we're trying to accomplish with this, tell a little bit of our story. We hadn't gone into more details on our personal side, the in-between stuff we've done in our life, right? But it is fun to be birds of a feather flock together. I want to tell you something. I'm surprised I made it out of high school, and I ended up buckling down in college. But I am telling you, I hated school. I'll just be first to tell you, I was bored. I just want to go play sports and leave me alone, right? And so it was not one of those where I wanted to take that report card home very often. I can tell you.
For me, like, 'cause me too. I wasn't a very good
we're smart, but we're smart in different ways.
You talk about strategic, right? Like I would literally figure out I would get the rubric or the syllabus and figure out, because they tell you like homework is this much, tests are this much.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, all right, so if homework's 10%, it's like if I can ace on my test, I can do no homework, still get a B. I'm like, that works for me.
Yeah.
So I would pay attention in class.
Yeah, I wasn't as terrible as I'm probably letting
skip all the homework.
Yeah, I probably wasn't as terrible I'm letting on, but it just was not my cup of tea. And I guess my point is that when we find something we really like I love technology, right? And I love this stuff. So once I reached out for that knowledge, it just reached back and hugged me and grabbed me and put me to work, right? It got my brain going. So I found out exactly what I was smart at. But there are so many things, folks, when you come on that I'm dumb at. Believe me, take my word for it. If you ask me to go out and fix something on my car, I'm not the guy.
But you will read the Google Handlights from the beginning to the end, and you'll actually read
I do
all the fine print, which blows me away.
I do.
You are up to date the moment it comes out. You know exactly what they want,
and you do, and you do too on the creative side, because you're always learning. When you're showing me some of the video clips that you're shooting for some of your clients, right, where you're showing me a technique and a way you're doing it. I mean, you're showing me stuff that I know can help some of my clients, right, because of the way you're doing it. So you're bringing you're researching some of that stuff on that side of it, just like I do on my side of it. I mean, I know that. You're always talking to me, say, Hurdie, I just checked this out on my phone. Look what I did with it. That's Jordan.
Yes.
That's Jordan. Check this out.
My technical side also started coming out too. And for me, the part that surprised me was the data and statistics. That's something that I had no idea I was even remotely passionate about. If you had asked me before, I would have thought that was like the most boring thing. Who wants to look at numbers and charts?
Right.
And then I started looking at like the kind of stories you can pull out of that. And I started getting into like, and I've talked a lot about this on the networking groups, but the pixels, right? Like Facebook pixels and the way you can integrate it to Google Tag Manager. And then how we can just get those to talk to each other. And then so you're watching that and you go to the web page and then you have certain interactions in there. You're going through like own channels. So the business owner is capable of understanding that traffic, right? So you looked at this ad, you were interested in that product, you went over and clicked the link, you checked out the product, you looked at other things, you put in the cart, you didn't check out. But then later on, 3 weeks later, you clicked on the link again and you checked it out again. It's just like you start getting these little stories of like the customer journey. And it's fascinating. And to get those kind of things, you got to have the technical setup and know how to connect all those data points on the back end. And I'll hop back there and just explore the back end of Facebook and start connecting things because I want that story.
And when you were describing a pixel the other day on Facebook, first of all, the deer in the headlights went on in the room. I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if he did a short and showed this is a pixie? What I'm going to talk about is a pixel.
Pixel. Yes, turns out I have Tinkerbell telling me all your activity in my shoulder. That's actually what it is.
I love that. But that's the kind of stuff you do and I do. But the thing about the way you explained it really well, and I will be willing to bet you, and some people tune in this conversation and I have a clue what we're talking about, probably did not even know that existed.
Yeah.
And had no idea you could track stuff that way. No idea. And that's really what it's all about. So there you go. So So if you are really disturbed that we went 1 hour and 4 minutes today, and now you were excited at the front end, and now you're going, I ain't going with those guys. Don't do that. No. We want you on the show.
Yes, we do.
I mean, we're talking $50 and we're going to do a lot of work for you. And by the way, I will tell you, I pay like $25 a month for the stream service, right? And so there's not a lot of money. It's just time. You're really paying for time to create editing and pixels and and snippets to get stuff out so we can archive at other places. It's a time thing. It's not the actual streaming part. It's the time. Besides managing clients, we'll have to do some other stuff on the side, and that's what we're looking for. So if you want to sponsor, just remind you, please. We're at the Mansfield Networking Group every Wednesday at Dirty Job Printing, Dirty Job Brewing from 12 to 1. You can come there and pull us aside and say, I definitely want to be a sponsor. I'll be honest with you, we're not looking for multiple sponsors. It's too hard to shout it out on a show without interrupting it. We're looking for one. So if you're interested, come talk to us. We'd love to sit down with you and customize something. But don't ask me how many views. I'm going to repeat that. Don't ask me because we're not there yet.
Nope, not there
and
yet.
After today, we may have none. But that's okay.
There's an audience for everything.
There's an audience for everything. So Jordan, any final thoughts, my friend?
This was fun. I really enjoyed it. I like this vibe, and I can't wait to have more people in it so we can have conversations, get to know each other, get a little deep on some parts, joke around on others, and just have fun. That's the biggest part. Is just this is meant to be fun.
Yeah. So hang on a sec. I just want to make sure that everybody understands we have some cool twos here. So on the way out, we'll rock. Yeah.
Nice.
So guys, ladies, like Julie came in a little late. So guess what? This nonsense will be up on YouTube when it's over. I'll go in and tighten it up a little bit with the titles and stuff. Jordan, I believe since you're a manager on that page, you can go into content section. I think you can download it. If you can't, I'll download it and ship it over to you, Dropbox, and you do whatever you want with it. Have fun. Perfect. Leave me out of it if possible, okay?
This will now and forever be recorded in the internet.
Oh my God. All right. Y'all have a good day. Jordan, thank you. We'll see y'all next week. It's Thursday, 2:00. Every Thursday, we'll be interviewing a Mansfield business and talking them up, okay? Y'all have a great day. Jordan,
See
you later, buddy.
Glad to have you.
Bye.